Hi, it's Lauren, and this is my MFF 2019 con report. We've been going to Furfest on and off for about 15 years. The first time that I had ever gone was back in 2004 in, I think, what was the original hotel for the convention. And we kind of went erratically for a while, and around 2010 or so was when we started going pretty much every year. And at the time of our attending, we were thinking that it was going to be our last Furfest. Generally, while we'd enjoyed the convention over the years, this particular past year, 2018, had resulted in some issues that made us consider possibly switching conventions. And, among the reasons for our possible departure from the convention were the fact that the con was getting pretty large and it was getting difficult both to move around the convention and to take pictures and such, especially with Schrag's visibility issues, especially when in suit. And the fact that the hotel lobby is rather dark and crowded in the evenings. I don't remember it always having been that way, but it seems like particularly in recent years the lobby is just very dark at night, not very well illuminated. And the other thing that was a big issue was that the reg line last year, we ended up spending 3 hours on the reg line. And, I know in part it was probably the fact that the con had about 2,000 more people than it had the previous year, and the old registration system as it was simply overwhelmed and not able to keep up with the numbers. But among other things, there was also the fact that being online for 3 hours, we got forced to listen to some folks' music who were playing speakers at a really loud volume, and it was just like, I'm just not okay with that kind of behavior, not on a reg line. You might think that you're being funny or you're entertaining people or something, but really it's just, I don't know, for us it was just not pleasant. And in a situation where you can't walk away from it, that becomes a problem. Also, the fact that the con either didn't know or we weren't informed how long the line was going to be, how long, what the wait time was looking at, any of that stuff. So, I thought in past years it might be about up to an hour, which, I'm willing to wait up to an hour on a reg line, on average anyway. And it turned out that this year was far longer than it had ever been at any convention I had ever attended before. From what I've heard horror stories of people at other conventions, it can be pretty long. But I wasn't used to longer than an hour at most conventions I'd ever attended, especially when you're pre-reg. But for whatever reason, last year was a perfect storm of things that resulted in 3 hours of listening to music I didn't care to hear, in a line that I hadn't expected, and I wasn't prepared for it. Had I known that it was going to be as long as it was, I might have brought an MP3 player or something to keep myself entertained. Unfortunately, we did not know it was going to be that long, and then by the time we had been online long enough, we'd reached the point where you don't want to leave the line because you don't want to have wasted that last hour and a half or however long it is you spent on it. So, we were going in this year considering a possibility that we might not come back in 2020. We arrived later than usual on Thursday. Usually we try and get in around check-in time, but this year our only available flights were either really early or really late. And our options in this particular case were, I guess, either like 7 o'clock in the morning, I think, or getting there about 7 o'clock at night. And we decided to go with the latter. I was planning on perhaps not even going to pre-registration on Thursday, because if we got in at 7, I certainly wouldn't want to jump in on a 3-hour reg line. But, we figured that, as opposed to usual, everybody probably would have had something to eat by the time we got in. So I was planning on just seeing what happened, asking what the reg line was like from other people, and maybe getting a salad later that evening. And when we had finally arrived, it was, I guess, about 6:45 when we got there. Angel and North Paw were there to greet us. Usually we end up beating them to the convention, but this time, due to our late arrival, they were already there. Angel encouraged me to go female the whole weekend, which I guess was different for me, but to ensure I didn't chicken out and not do it. I made sure that I pretty much brought dresses and skirts. I think I had maybe one pair of pants and a t-shirt just for the flight, for any case where I would be asked for my ID. So that being said, it was definitely something that was enlightening and interesting for me, and I really think that I have to thank Angel for encouraging me to do that, because it's a change. It's significantly different, but I really found that I enjoyed it, and I almost kind of didn't want to get changed sometimes, just because it's like, I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and I'll get more into that, I guess, in a little bit. But let's see. When we got to the Ridge Line, we decided to ask about disability access, because one of our friends has also had some medical issues and would not be able to stand a 3-hour line, or perhaps even a 1-hour line. But that being said, it occurred to me that even though we don't usually think about it that way, technically, Strag has a disability, so we thought we would inquire about it, and at worst they would tell us no. But I wasn't sure if it was something you had to sign up for before you came to the convention, or if you could just ask about it, but I figured it didn't hurt to inquire. So we talked to a staff member. They directed us to the disability access line, and we were done with registration pretty much within about 15 minutes. So it was definitely a good thing to take advantage of, and I think that if we keep going to Furfest, we will probably be doing that in the future. Generally, we just go through the standard pre-registration line, but it's definitely one of those things that I need to remember is there, and if we need to take advantage of it, then that's what we'll do, because Strag qualifies. So it was definitely one of the major things that was really bothering our convention experience. Generally, over the course of the weekend, I'd say we ate pretty good. Usually on vacation, I kind of don't really think about it too much, because I guess I use the typical excuse, hey, I'm on vacation, I can eat whatever I want. But I was trying to be a little bit mindful of what I was eating this weekend, not the least of which because I'm trying to lose a good amount of weight by Texas Fur Fiesta next year. But for other reasons, I also wanted to just see if I could do it. And I think we did pretty well. I did, salad a couple of times. I had, we split a burger on Friday. We ordered like a burger at the Expoteria, and this was like a huge burger. It was like a $12 meal, and they really pile it on there. So we just kind of split the burger in half. I took half the fries, he took half the fries, and we just had one meal for one meal for two people. And that was basically that. Breakfast buffet, which I did with Angel, I think Friday morning. I had some eggs, some sausage, and a lot of the plate was fruit. So that was pretty good. I'd say overall I did pretty well. And at our annual dinner at Portillo's, it's like I didn't even finish my sandwich, just because I don't know if maybe I'm just getting used to eating less or something in between. But I managed to get all three of Topaz's outfits and Kate's outfit out once each. I decided to try and just take two fursuits for a few reasons. Mostly just when I was thinking about it, on average at these conventions I usually end up suiting about 5 to 6 times. And if you take more than 2 suits, you don't really get adequate time to spread around among the various costumes. So I only ended up bringing Topaz because I knew I had several outfits for her that I wanted to wear. The green ball gown and the maid dress, and I also wanted to wear the stockings that I got from Hojozilla, which were all new. And Kate, I decided to just go simple and just grab a little black dress, because even though Kate wears a lot of sexy dresses, I didn't really have a whole lot of stuff in her metaphorical closet, so to speak. And as a side note, I've hijacked about half of my girls' clothes for me. So I guess that's good, and that they'll get more use or something. But let's see. I guess another thing worth talking about is that over the course of the con, especially on the mornings, I was taken to the mall for a couple of trips. The first time was just with myself and Connie. And on the first trip, I ended up spending some money on perfume because I don't really technically have any. And got a couple of tops. I'm not Well, I got a red lace up wine colored top, which I think will look really cute with something as soon as I figure out what to match it with, and a white top with like a zipper up front, which I think will probably look good with a darker skirt. But we'll see how that goes. I also ended up wandering into the Linder store. Apparently, they discontinued my favorite chocolate, which is like a white chocolate bar with strawberry pieces in it. But I did get a white chocolate with a coconut in it and a normal chocolate with some raspberry, and I got Srag a couple of no sugar added chocolate bars, which I think he really liked. And there was this little stand that was selling macaroons. So they were way more expensive than I would normally pay for such things. I think it was like $25 for 10, so it was like $2.50 a macaroon. And if normally I can get them at home, but I don't know, just the novelty of seeing them in a mall like kiosk or something, one of those little tables in the center of the aisle, just kind of said, okay, I need to do this. So I got us a treat, and I got us some lemon and some raspberry macaroons, which was the ones they seemed to have the most of, and they also seemed to be my favorite flavors of the ones that they had. If they'd had more vanilla, I might have gotten those, but they let us pick and choose what I wanted, so that was pretty good. I got half of each. And the second mall trip, Angel took me to the makeup store where I learned a little bit about foundation, and I learned that they apparently have liquid lipstick, which I had never realized before. For some reason, I just always thought it was in the little tubes. And let's see, I guess I also have an eyeliner pencil, and I guess more on that later once I finally learn how to use them. But I'd have to say that it surprised me how much just a teeny little bit of makeup makes a huge difference in terms of how you present. And it kind of makes a lot of sense. And so, for all of those genetic girls out there, I have to say I appreciate your effort. It's a lot of little things that I guess most folks just kind of just expect and don't really necessarily appreciate all the time. But I'm definitely enjoying learning about all these things, and look forward to seeing where I end up in the future. But also, I guess the only other thing to say about yes, I have to say thank you to the lady who showed me how to use the makeup, and thank you to Angel and Connie for the moral support, because I probably wouldn't have been able to walk in there by myself. And let's see, I guess the only other thing to say about the mall was that there was this little place I spotted on Saturday, which I had to go back to on Sunday. They had a little, I'm not sure if you call it a stand, but it was like a freestanding place that sold these really fancy crepes. And I had to go and try one on the Sunday. And of course, I also had to get one of their specialty coffees. It was like Crepe Cafe or something. So it was crepes and coffees. And so I got a fruit cup and a latte, and that was really good. It's like I knew, though everybody else was going to the food court, when I came back on Sunday, it's like I had to try this, especially since it would be my only opportunity. And let's see, okay, there was also the Furry Variety Show. I haven't participated in a live performance for I don't know how many years. I used to do them all the time at every convention we went to, at Furfest, at Anthrocon, at Further Confusion. I never did one at TFF, which I guess means it's been about 8 or 9 years before I probably participated in one. I think the last one I definitively remember was at Anthrocon. It's Rain and Men with Ikari, I think. And I guess over the years it just became a lot of work to come up with an act every convention, especially since we did multiple conventions a year that fit the criteria, which usually we tried to shoot for a lot of the things that you might not necessarily think about when you're doing live performance. And I guess at some point I might have to do a video on that as well. But insofar as live performance goes, preferably somewhere around the range of 3 minutes, not too many props, not too many complicated things that can go wrong, that sort of thing. Well, anyway, I was sitting in the room, I think Saturday, and I was just going to maybe get into suit in a little while when I get a text message from Northpaw, and he asked if I wanted to participate in a Furry Variety Show act. Well, of course, I ended up thinking about it for a minute, and it's been a while since I did one, so I responded back with when you need me and what's involved. And he kind of gave me a basic overview and said that rehearsal would be at 2:30 and that I didn't have to be in suit. So given the options, obviously at this point I didn't have time to get into suit anyway. Um, so I kind of just got dressed and ran down there, and we talked about the act. We went through it, did rehearsal, and it was, overall, it seemed like it was the kind of act that just appealed to my sense of humor. It's on YouTube now. It's John Ray Savvy on my YouTube channel, and I think it's also in a couple of other places. It was basically kind of like a private detective. He goes through the whole process of describing the case, and finally just gives up and just ends up shooting me, which I thought was kind of funny. So I was kind of happy to participate because I was gonna be, yeah, I mean, what else would I have done alternate other than that? Just maybe just some random suiting. It seemed like an interesting alternative, and I hadn't done one in a while, so I eagerly agreed. And it went pretty well. I mean, I did the rehearsal, went back to the room, and of course by this time I definitely wasn't planning on suiting that afternoon. So, I just kind of loafed in the room, I think, for a couple of hours until it was time to get ready, find food, and do all that other stuff. I think we did dinner afterwards. Actually, I think we ordered a pizza that night, but. Around 6:15, I think, was when they wanted us to get ready. So I was gonna have to be in suit by then, and be down there with Strag. And the show went pretty well. I mean, it pretty much went perfectly. They had it set up pretty well, and it was a fun act. I'd have to say that if you have the opportunity to go take a look at the other video, which shows the act in its entirety. And let's see, last thing worth talking about, I suppose, is we had our annual dinner at Portillo's on Sunday night. It's sort of become a tradition that sort of evolved over just, I guess, randomness over the years. And, long story short, we just ended up going out every Sunday night as a collective group. And of course, if you know anything about going to food at conventions, it's extremely complicated to go with groups larger than six to go anywhere, especially if you're talking about off-site. But Sunday is kind of an exception because we all go. All of us that have cars have plenty of space, usually for the others in our group who flew in, like myself and Strag. And it's after the con, so there's nothing really competing for attention. So we all just kind of get together, go to Portillo's, and have dinner together. And Angel usually gives a speech. Except this year was just a little bit different because of it was coming up on an anniversary of Angel knowing a friend of ours, Mac, who he tends to make a lot of introductions, and I'd have to say that without his intervention, the group probably wouldn't be what it is, because while he really, he makes introductions. I mean, he knows that, you might like to talk to this person, that you two might get along really well, that sort of thing. And he sort of inadvertently resulted in a lot of us knowing each other. So, without Mac, I probably wouldn't know Angel, which probably would have had a butterfly effect on a lot of the other things that have gone on. And while the group has grown and changed and evolved over the years, a lot of us know each other because of Mac. So we had an idea, or I should say Angel had an idea last year to get a whole bunch of shirts made up. They were Mac's Angels, kind of like Charlie's Angels was the inspiration. So she took the logo from like the 1970s show or whenever the series came out, and replaced the figures in the silhouette with myself, Maggie, and Angel. And so on the back we all had like names and numbers like a sports team. And we all kind of got the plan together, and we figured that this would be the best time. Some folks had gotten their shirts sized like they were going to be in suit, but I personally was thinking that in order to coordinate both the reveal and having us all together, that the most practical way to do this would have been at the Sunday dinner at Portillo's. And Angel agreed, and so we kind of all planned around that. Well, it didn't quite go off 100% perfect. It was pretty darn close. But we all kind of arranged so that Mac would be in the center, that Angel would be across from him, and we did the reveal, and it all kind of just pretty much went as perfect as it could. And it was it was actually kind of funny because Mac all of a sudden realized we were all paying attention to him, and I don't know really what else to say other than that it went really great, and that it was definitely a nice feeling to be there. And let's see. I guess that's pretty much it. As far as whether or not we'll keep coming in the future, right now it's kind of in the air. But what happened this year compared to last year is a strong contender for us to consider going at least for another year or two or something. I don't know. We'll see. But, we really can't afford to do more than 2 furry cons a year, so I guess that depends on whether or not we decide we will be moving on. But it's a strong argument for us to consider Furfest again. But I guess that's all, and I hope you enjoyed this con report, and I will catch you guys later. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. You can also find me on Twitter and a few other places on the web, or support me via Patreon or Ko-fi. Zebra hugs!